Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. It's TradeYT again, and following up from the previous video, as promised, I wanted to bring out a video to show you me tanking with the mobile device. So before we begin, the mobile device for me is an iPad Air, so it's not like a mobile phone, although you could probably do it on a mobile phone like one of the more modern ones. This is me tanking Bandos with two of the friends who are DPS. I'm tank, as you can see. And I just basically wanted to show you from my perspective what it's like to tank Bandos. And to be honest with you, it's very easy. The fact that you've got touchscreen makes it so much easier as well, because like switching equipment's very quick. You can also click on the boss very fast. It's really nice. You can also, I can like sit somewhere more comfortable than at a computer, and if you're bossing for like an hour, you need to go to the toilet. It's funny when I'm playing with people that are on computer, because they have to stop, like log out, rush to the toilet, and come back and then carry on. Whereas for me, I can actually just take my iPad to the toilet and then carry on bossing. So yeah, it's pretty ideal. But you can see we've just had our first kill on Bandos, which was no problem at all. Just some good general tips. First off, just be really careful sometimes that you don't hit any tabs by accident, because you've got your Bones Peaches, you can see at the bottom left of my inventory, but there's also the home teleport to the bottom right. So just be careful when you're on different interfaces that when you're switching back, you don't like tap something and end up finding yourself back at your house, because that's pretty much end of trip, especially if you're tank. You can see I'm collecting bones, really useful to Bones to Peaches. As a tank, you always want to just avoid using sour brews as much as possible and build up like a nice bank, basically a stock bank of food, so that if you do take damage, you can always just have food and keep your potted stats sort of where they are. That's sort of the aim of the game, really. Now here you see I get hit for 54. Where I'm stood is the perfect spot to stand when you're tanking Bandos, so always make sure you stand there before he spawns. I'm not quite sure why I did get hit. I just didn't turn my prayer on quick enough, or I just got unlucky, because normally when he spawns on top of you, it takes him a few seconds to orientate himself, or he will aggro your DPS friends who he can actually see, start walking towards them, and then you hit him, and then he comes back towards you. So best thing to do if you do get hit though is just to make sure first your prayer is on, heal, and don't panic, because if you panic, you're probably dead. I wanted to also talk about a few of the tanking mistakes I see quite common. So the first is people bringing like a Bandos chestplate or even Bandos tussets as a tank. Really lowers your magic defense, so you're going to take a lot more damage. Carols is probably one of the best things you can take to Bandos, especially for tanking. So that's number one, is just avoid bringing like a chestplate or tassets as tank, because Carols will perform better for sure. Another thing is people tend to think that Justicular armour is extremely good for Bandos in set or separate pieces. It's not great. It's definitely not better than Carols again, so I'd say the gold standard is Carols, because it's fairly cheap, and you can use that money for other more important things like a Bandos God Sword or other stat boosting equipment. The other sort of key things, you've noticed I've got the Zamorak Caster as my sort of primary damage dealing weapon. It's really effective at Bandos, and also it keeps the second arm free for the Dragonfire and Dragonfire shield, which is pretty much essential to make sure you've got that extra defense. So the spec weapon I chose were Dragon Claws, which, to be honest, are probably the best. Dragon Warhammer is fairly good. I would say it's not quite as good as Claws. They can be quite inaccurate, the Dragon Warhammer, although obviously the spec benefit's decent. So during this actual trip, I think we lasted about 2 hours. Once you're max defense and maxed mage, you can stay at Bandos for a very long time. Generally, people get bored, is the main reason for leaving, rather than running out of supplies. Just if you do decide to duo as well, it's probably better to bring more brews than restores, because you're going to be taking more damage. I'd also recommend, there's another great alternative by the way which I use, which is range tanking. I actually find that if I range tank, I can out DPS most of the melee people who are coming with me, which is crazy to think that the tank can hit more and get more kills in the trip. So that's actually the most efficient way to tank Bandos, is to use the range tank method. We're just coming to the end of the video now, so we didn't actually get any drops on that particular trip, but I did in a recent one. I thought it would be good for you guys to see that, so there you go.